A big hello and a very warm welcome. Our session today is about a fascinating concept, a concept called the impression of increase. This was a phrase used for the first time by an American author, Wallace, Wattles, in this book here, The Science of Getting Rich. This is one of those ageless, timeless personal development classics which has so many pearls of wisdom to offer. You sit down to count them, we literally wouldn't know where to start and where to end. The one we're going after today is the impression of increase. And the reason we're going after this is because this is a very useful concept for you to understand and incorporate on your path to manifest your infinite riches. And I'm going to read a few lines from chapter 14, titled The Impression of Increase. Wattles says, "Increase is what all men and women are seeking. It is the urge of the formless intelligence within to find fuller expression. The desire for increase is inherent in all of nature. Every living thing is under that necessity to advance, for continuous advancement. Where increase of life ceases, dissolution and death set in." These are pretty strong words. And if we try breaking these up into more contemporary language and slightly easier terms, what Wattles is saying is that there's something inside every human being, inside each of us, which wants to come out there and manifest itself in certain ways. Those ways are different for every human being. That formless intelligence within is our soul, which in itself is a fragment of universal spirit, which in turn is the all-encompassing, omnipresent God substance, or the universal force, or universal spirit, which is anything and everything in the universe. Now, this inherent spirit has always wanted to grow and advance. It's part of its nature. That is why humankind has advanced so much over centuries. If this inherent spirit did not have this feeling within itself, humankind would not have advanced the way it has. Now, this is where it gets very interesting when we're talking about manifesting infinite riches. You see, what Wattles says is that every human being wants that impression of increase. Not only those who are out there to manifest the infinite riches. So, when you set up your enterprise, when you live your purpose, as you become the person you always meant to be, and you're on the path to manifest your infinite riches, you have to make sure that everyone your enterprise touches, every customer, every client, every subscriber, every audience member, is genuinely left with an impression of increase. You have to give so much more than you take, so much more. For example, if you're charging $10 for a product, doesn't matter what the product is, could be a balloon, could be a mini computer, could be anything. The value you have to give, when I mean give, I don't mean artificially give, genuinely give. What the person on the other side who's using your product or service should feel that they're getting so much more than what you're charging them. Now, when you do that, you genuinely leave that person with an impression of increase. Now, this is a very different idea from the way most businesses function on our planet. Most businesses would see, how can they maximize a profit? Most businesses would see, how can they reduce the value of what they give a little bit and bump up the price a little bit? No. We're not talking about that. We're talking about seeing it from a completely different lens. We're saying that you go out there with the best possible product or service you have, with a feeling in your heart, which genuinely leaves everyone you touch with an impression of increase. When you do that, by virtue of what Wattles is talking about, you yourself become a recipient of all the riches out there, of the infinite riches. But you got to give before you take. So when you live your purpose, you ensure that you give tremendous value through your business, through your enterprise, through your work, to everyone you touch. When you do that, everyone you touch is left with a genuine impression of increase. And because you've caused that impression of increase, the same thing comes back to you many times over. That's the law. That's how it has to work. And I can talk about my own enterprise, the Center for Infinite Riches. That is exactly what I try to do day in and day out. And I ask for guidance. I ask for guidance often so I can give the best possible at the least possible price, so that everyone I touch hugely magnifies in terms of their increase, and it comes back to me, and the cycle carries on and on and on. Think about this. It's a very different way of the way businesses are run, mostly in this world. And I say mostly because, of course, there are people who follow this, but the vast majority look at businesses as existing to maximize profit. When you change your lens, when you take a different approach, you see that the profit chases you. You don't run after it anymore. The profit runs after you. Keep that in mind. Always remember it. And have fun till we speak next.